And we're live. Hello, everybody. All 8 to 10 of you that are currently watching. This is the, I don't know if I can say this because it's hard to say, Antisyphon address space layout randomization show. And we are here at random. I've got Serena here with me.
Hello.
She's going to help lead the show today. We've got also Phil. Wave Phil.
Hello, everybody.
There's Phil. Alyssa. And then Ashley. And today's randomization show, I have to really concentrate to say that word. It's gonna be a fun one. It's gonna be like an AMA, as Serena and the gang is gonna talk about being the rookies in cybersecurity.
Yes.
Isn't that right?
Yes, that's what we're doing. So I gotta retweet this again.
Oh, we gotta do the socials.
Of course. Anyway, yeah. So everybody is okay. Wait, so it says Serena's coming off the bench.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. So we're definitely here to answer questions from chat and talk about kind of the process of becoming a tester, what it's like being a new tester, and what it's like a little bit after that. So ask any of those questions because we will be here for the next at least 30 to 40 minutes.
Sure. That sounds good. While we wait for questions, how about we go around the panel here and give a short little background intro of who you are and why should anybody care about asking you questions. So let's start with Serena and then we'll go clockwise. All
right. So I have been here for, I don't know, it's been like 6-ish weeks now, maybe 7. I was a network engineer, but a lot of people know me from TikTok or Twitter, and I started to get more into cybersecurity, although part of my undergrad was Infosec as well. And obviously being a network engineer, you're still doing some security stuff. So now I am a tester or starting to be a tester, still doing a lot of like ride-alongs and training and hack the box and classes and all that before I do my first test. That's me.
Sweet. All right, going clockwise, I see Ashley.
Oh,
is next.
I figured we were going, I don't know, never mind.
Apparently that'd be counterclockwise.
I'm left-handed, so I always do that for whatever reason. I don't know why it is, but fun fact. I have been in cybersecurity for about almost 10 years now. I had a information science major in undergrad, and I graduated in 2013. And I was hired straight out of school to do vulnerability management. And I went from vulnerability management. They taught me how to be a penetration tester. And then from there, I had my first consulting gig, and I did consulting for about 4 years. And then I went back into the internal side of things on a red team. And then after the red team, I came over to Black Hills, and I've been here since October of last year. And so I do a lot of network penetration testing, some red team stuff, some social engineering, and just now diving into web app.
Excellent. Now we're going further with Alyssa. Alyssa, what do you do here?
Oh, no.
Uh-oh.
Alyssa works here.
Technical difficulties.
All right.
There she is.
I was stuck on the double mute here,
All the mutes.
Okay. Hello. So I graduated in 2020. I majored in computer science. I spent a couple years as an intern working part-time on an application security team. And then right out of graduation, I started working on an internal offensive security team. So I did that for a couple of years. And wanted to branch out and try something new. So I joined BHIS, where I am hoping to do a lot of web app testing. I just finished a ride along, so I'm starting to spread my wings and do some testing on my own.
Nice.
That's me.
Well, we are certainly happy to have you guys here. Moving on to Phil, because I'm going to skip me because I'm not a tester. I just do video stuff. So Phil, what do you do here?
So I just started at BHIS on Monday was my first day as a penetration
So you have nothing
tester.
to say at all. Nothing at all.
I got a couple of things to say.
Okay.
But,
Okay. Good.
But yeah, focusing primarily in web app testing and did a lot of my own research independently. Had kind of a funky path to get here. Started in college with business administration just because it was pretty easy and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And then sold cars for a while. And then eventually I discovered cybersecurity because I wanted a career change. And I was like, yep, this is what I want to do. So just focused on that, learning everything I could, working on Hack the Box, Vulnhub, Try Hack Me, and anything I could get my hands on. And then got my foot in the door at an e-commerce company doing mostly like server orchestration and web development and DevOps, but still had cybersecurity in the back of my mind as my main goal career-wise. So kept working at it and got a job at BHIS as a penetration tester, but it was a long road to get here. And it's a
Cool.
long-winded response.
That's fine, but that's what we want to hear today.
Yeah.
Is all the good details.
And it looks like the Discord bot is not transferring over the thing
It's still
again,
not working. I'm very disappointed with Discord bot.
but I will monitor it. So
Okay.
people can still type stuff in there and I'll relay the message.
But if you are on Twitch or even our YouTube streams, that chat relay is working. So we can see that. And I can bring you, I can bring like White Cyberduck up full screen. And we can have some fun with that. I don't see any question. Oh, we got a question. Just as I was going to say, I don't see any questions. We've got Defer Jesse with a question. What pen test is your jam? Web app, internal network hosting, blah, blah, blah. What tool do you recommend doing? What tool would you recommend to do a thing on Hoodies, PowerShell, Empire, or Mythic, etc.? What does this question mean? Answer the question for me, guys. Who wants to go first?
Yeah, I can say that I think the one that most interests me is web app at the moment, mainly because I think it's just what I'm most experienced with. And I kind of just like finding issues with web applications. I think it's really interesting, especially when you do find a good one. So that's probably what I like. And one tool that I really liked was one that Ashley had showed me, which I think is a kind of a popular one, but it's like Eyewitness that screenshots every page. And I was like, oh, that's cool.
Aquatone?
What was that?
Are you talking about Aquatone?
She said Eyewitness. Eyewitness is the same thing, basically.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, that's cool, because then you just like go through the screenshots, see if there's something like real juicy. You can just like go there immediately. So
yeah.
Anybody else?
I'll answer the question. So my favorite pen test has to be internals. There's just so much there, and sometimes it can be overwhelming, but for the most part, it's always a treasure hunt. And the clients always have something different that they want you to go after. You know, some clients want you to get domain admin. Some clients want you to just get data. Some clients just want to see how their internal controls are working, or to see that, you know, their patching efforts have been fruitful. And it really just depends on the client themselves and what they're looking for. But an internal pen test is really the most fun, in my opinion. I just think they're the most fruitful, and they give you the most knowledge. You can test out new tools that you discover in clients' networks. So yeah, they're definitely my favorite.
Awesome.
So we do have another question. I don't know if you want to.
yeah, anyone else
Clients
wanna
want to
answer?
watch the world burn.
There is the one, what are some strengths and weaknesses that most blue teamers have when switching to red team?
I don't know if we have any blue teamers here, but from my experience, I've done a couple of purple team tests, and I think from a blue teamer to a red teamer perspective, one of your biggest strengths is going to be bypassing EDR or WAFs or firewalls that are in place, knowing how and what those firewalls are looking for, or what folders potentially in the past that you've seen being excluded by like McAfee or something like that. So you can bypass those controls, knowing what to use or what not to use to just go undetected. That would be the biggest strength that I would see as a blue teamer going to a red team perspective.
Yeah, one thing that I noticed, especially coming from being an engineer at Cisco, was when I was shadowing Ashley, I was like, oh, I know what a lot of these Cisco things are. So just being able to like kind of already know what you're looking at, and if you know how to like configure things on there, or if you already know like, oh, I know there's a specific issue with this thing that'll do this, or a lot of people misconfigure it this way or forget to do this because you're just like already really familiar with that equipment or that technology. I think that's super helpful.
Yeah, and as a red teamer, your knowledge is only as good as your Googling skills sometimes. And, you know, based off what Serena just said, her knowledge of Cisco, I would never have been able to find, even reading manuals. There's just some stuff that you can never Google or read well enough in the short amount of time that you have during a pen test. So,
yeah. Phil, you kind of had a blue team background, right?
Yeah, I did some incident response mainly for Magento 2 web applications. It didn't happen all the time, but probably about 2 to 3 a year. Last year there was about 4. But yeah, there's definitely a lot. It's hard to not go down rabbit holes when you're looking at it can be overwhelming, information overload with all the things you see. Starting out on an external web application or external or internal application test, but you just got to focus. One thing that John had said that Ashley told me earlier today is spend 5 minutes on 5 different things and move on. And try not to get stuck, because on an engagement, it's usually 2 weeks approximately. So it can be very non-beneficial to go down rabbit holes and
got to use your time wisely.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a huge challenge for any engagement that you guys work on? Is just the time management, or sometimes
I think it's going to be an issue.
it seems inevitable, right?
It's different because like all of your time matters when you're on that engagement versus like when you're configuring things or setting up or a project, like your timelines are so much longer. So you can really take your time, read all the documentation, think through, come up with a plan. But when you're on a test, like it's all of that time matters, because it's like, if you waste an hour, like that's an hour that you could have like found something, or at least like given yourself a clue or hint to something really cool. So that's been someone says they spot Hazel. She's like laying behind me. But that's
Hazel's
been
the dog, for anyone who doesn't know.
Yeah. She's just...
That is a dog right there.
Yep. Anyway, but that's something that I have like
There's
noticed.
the face. There we go. There we go.
That is going to be really interesting from switching, is just like, oh, I don't have time to just like really meticulously read through all this documentation like I would on the other side.
Yeah, Bronwyn's comment here, rabbit holes can be fun, but when you're on engagement, the clock is running is the thing for me. I mentioned earlier that I came from an internal offensive security team, and I think that's one thing that I am really going to be working to learn about, is how to stop myself from diving into those rabbit holes for too long. Because coming from an internal team, you have a lot of context that you wouldn't have as like a consultant. So interesting challenge.
Cyberduck asked a question about web app pen testing. Said there's a lot of love for web app pen testing from this group. Is that where we see the industry moving? In my opinion, yes and no. I think that web app pen testing, there's more engagement coming towards it and coming from it, because when you're doing external engagements for like the network, half of your network space is going to be web application, whether that's, you know, the API or mobile web app testing or just regular web apps. And so when you're looking at an external organization's presence, most of what you're seeing is a web application. The network servers that are hosting all of that stuff should be pretty well secured. And so for me personally, to become a better external network penetration tester, I feel like I also have to be pretty good at web application testing so that I can give my clients the best value for their buck. You know, if I don't see anything open on an external network server besides 80 and 443, then there's not a whole lot of good I'm going to do them as an external network pen tester. I'm going to have to switch seats and hats basically to that web app side to give them, you know, at least some value. So.
Yeah, we have a question on Discord too, and it says, as a pen tester on a purple team engagement, what info is most helpful to you from the blue team?
So I think the most helpful information is what you guys are seeing, what you're not seeing. If you're seeing our tools, then maybe it really depends on what the objective of the purple team assessment is. Is it to better your detections, or is it to see what you can bypass? Is it to see what C2s are able to gain access to your network? You know, it really depends on what what the actual objective is. But as a red teamer, or I guess what I would prefer to see from a blue team, is that collaboration so that I can understand their goals and help reach those goals as a red team tester. That's just communication would be my preferred thing.
Yeah, let's see here. I'm like looking at both of them.
It's on all the screens. Here's a question from Brian. I'll bring it up on the screen. How do you feel about active sock ways we see you?
When the active sock says
when active sock says we see you.
Oh, that's
I love it. I'm thrilled. I'm happy that you saw us. I'm happy you detected us. I'm happy that your controls are working, and maybe we need to talk about whitelisting if I get blocked. So,
because that's the ultimate point, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
As a red team, your job is to make the blue team and that enterprise or organization, whatever it is, more secure. So always you gotta have that as your end goal all the time.
Yeah.
Is it easy to get lost in the competition of red versus blue, or being able to get through the gates and that little bit of ego seeping through?
Alyssa overheard this conversation during Way West Hacking Fest between, you know, us and some people that visited our booth. And I feel like I'm monopolizing the talking, so I apologize about that. But there is definitely that political field there where the blue team has their objectives, the red teams have their objectives, and most of the time those objectives do not align. You know, the blue team wants to stop us, the red team wants to gain access. And so there can be a lot of like butting heads where we don't always get along so well. And in my experience in the past, trying to go past that barrier and be like, okay, look, we're all in the same team here. We all want to make sure that the company is more secure. Active SOC and the blue team wants to catch us, and the red team needs to recognize that that is the end goal for them. Or whatever else the end goal is actually. But as a red teamer, you know, having and understanding that it's not always our job to gain access to things, but it can also be our job to, you know, facilitate that testing to make sure that the blue team is accessing and seeing what they should see based off of our traffic. So it can be politically challenged though.
Yeah, that's like interesting. Someone says, I'm not familiar with API testing. What is required to test an API? I've not done any. Well, I haven't done a lot of API testing. Might have to
Go ahead, Phil. I
defer.
feel like you're about to talk.
Oh yeah, I was about to go. Okay, I can
Go
take
ahead,
this
go
one
ahead.
just based on my experience. There's a couple things pertaining to API testing because you have authenticated endpoints and sometimes there's unauthenticated endpoints that should be authenticated but are not, where you can enumerate more information from the API and potentially dump sensitive information. But it can be pretty tricky just like discovering certain parameters. But there's a lot of fuzzing tools you can use for that. But I'm not like the most experienced API tester, but from my experience, it's super fun when you find something that should be authenticated that isn't, and then gives you access to more resources and data and potentially services.
I think what web app testing and API testing are very, very similar. The difference being that you don't have that front end UI part. So I don't know about I forgot what the question said. What do you need? Or
What is required?
What is required? So I definitely am no, all-knowing expert of tools, but it still say burp. Burp is still handy for this. Burp is kind of my go-to for all things. But another thing that is a cool tool that I learned about recently, that is in relation to API testing and web application testing, is JWT Tool, which is if you're poking at an API that uses JWTs, JSON Web Tokens, or an application. It's a cool tool to kind of evaluate the tokens, how to code the tokens, and then test out some common vulnerabilities. It's well documented, JWT tool. And then it also, if you have Burp Suite running, it proxies the traffic that it creates through Burp as well automatically, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, we have a question on Discord from Bramblethorn. Gonna try my best on that one. When changing roles, was there a specific event that made you feel like I'm a tester now?
Does any of you feel like you're a tester now? Are you still in that learning phase?
The imposter syndrome is real sometimes.
Phil just started.
I'm forever on a learning phase stage.
Give him a break. It's only his third day.
I think that first,
like
I'm
even coming from
right, is probably delivering the report. Just delivering a report and having that post-test conversation where you're talking to the client, telling them what you did, telling them what you found, and how to fix it. So, for me,
there you go. That's a good benchmark.
I don't know, Alyssa, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, like, so I've been here for I don't know a few months now, a couple months, late March, and I came from an internal testing team, and I still feel like mad imposter syndrome. But I do agree with Ashley that at the point where I feel like I'm providing value to the customer, whoever that is, if it's a blue team from an internal team or if it's another company, when you are explaining what you did and then like how they can improve their security posture is kind of, I would say I feel good about those parts. I don't know if I still have the imposter syndrome. I don't feel like I'm a teacher now yet. I'm not there yet.
You're getting there though. We all are, right? I mean, I'm not there yet, and I've been doing this for almost 10 years, which actually really plays into the next question that someone asked about pursuing, certifications and courses. I'm in a master's program at DePaul University for cybersecurity, and I've also taken a number of classes off of like Pentester Academy, a Cloud Guru. Let's see what else. There's a bunch of other courses out there. SANS is great if you have the money for it. Antisyphon Training is phenomenal. I've taken at least 4 classes now since joining in October. And then, OSCP, OSCE, those are phenomenal classes or programs as well, if you have the time to dedicate to it.
And we do have to say we are a little bit biased with the Antisyphon Training since we are Antisyphon Training. That's what you're watching. So if you want to check out the classes, shameless plug,
Shameless.
Antisyphontraining.com is the website to go check that out. See what we have. It's all online. We have some video on demand trainings that we just launched maybe a month or two ago. It doesn't feel like that long ago. So check that out. That's what Ashley was referring to. And we are working to add whatever we can to our training stuff. This is part of it. We want to get what we can to share the information out to you guys, and it's a growing field. We need more people out there. This is not an industry that's going to shrink anytime soon. So that's probably a good question. How secure do you guys feel about your career path going forward?
I feel
it's
really
just the beginning, right?
Yeah, because I mean, right now there's like all this rumbling about like a recession and just like companies doing layoffs. And I feel pretty good about it, especially in the security space. It's like, well, if there's a recession, like it's not going to stop ransomware or hackers or anything like that. So, or it's not going to change compliance standards. So I think I feel pretty confident in that, but I also felt pretty confident when I was a network engineer too. So I don't know.
Are you saying you became unconfident in network engineering?
No, I mean, working at Cisco, they always kind of had layoffs every year, and it would be like restructuring or different things. So that's not necessarily like a traditional network engineer role versus like a network engineer at a company. Because I felt like a lot of companies, they already have so few of them. And it's like, well, if you get rid of one, you're getting rid of like a lot of knowledge for your specific network. And it takes so long for a network engineer to really get comfortable with your environment. Like I would say you have to wait it out like an entire year to really, really feel comfortable with some environments, unless they're like really small. So people typically don't like laying off network engineers, what I've seen, unless they have like a ton of them for some reason and they feel like they don't need that many.
Okay.
And just to add on to, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Phil.
Oh, I was going to say, just to piggyback off what Serena said, web applications are constantly changing and new versions are coming out all the time, which a lot of time introduce new bugs. And I don't see penetration testing going away anytime soon for web applications, just because they're becoming ginormous in their frameworks and code bases, and there's always going to be something lurking that someone's going to find. So.
And a comment said earlier in Discord, we got the rise of the cloud. It's still growing, so the end is not in sight. Yeah,
cloud's super interesting when it comes to testing, because I was like, how do you do that? But now I'm learning a lot, so that's cool. But it was something I had no idea how I would even go about that.
Yeah, that's one of our, I'd say, most popular courses right now is the cloud testing course from Bo on the Antisyphon website. So definitely a lot of people interested in that, and for good reason.
His class is how I found out about VHIS. I was Googling around for cloud hacking how-tos and trying to learn some more, because I was developing my own series of classes for the company that I worked for previously. And I stumbled upon his, I think it's like a 3-hour stream split up into like 3 or 4 different classes or YouTube videos. And it was phenomenal. I mean, the content was just phenomenal. And so I signed up for notifications for all the webcasts after that, and I became kind of a little bit of a fangirl.
So nice.
That's cool.
That's what we like to hear.
Yeah. And now I work here.
Awesome.
Do you want to know the way that I found out about VHIS?
Yes.
I found out because Jason DM'd me on Twitter and was like, hey, would you ever consider working here? And I was like, too afraid to tell him. I was like, I don't really know what VHIS is. So, but then, yeah, eventually I was like, all right, let me check this out and see what's going on. And then I was looking at the website. I'm like, this seems very rustic. Like, I'm a city girl. So,
Very rustic. Too many cows? Is that what you're saying?
yeah, I was like, do I have to move to South Dakota for this? Because I don't think that's gonna happen. So luckily, I did not have to move to work here, which is great.
That's a good point. I think from where I came from before I started working with BHS, we had to go to the office. We had a building we had to go to, travel in 20 minutes. Not a huge commute, but I am now working from home and I absolutely love it. What do you guys see as far as the industry as a whole going? This seems like a perfect job for the work at home lifestyle? What do you guys think? Do you see a lot of companies out there embracing that even more in this industry?
It's like such a conflict right now for a lot of people. Like, go back to the office. And then like a lot of workers are like, no, we're staying home. And like personally, since I have an autoimmune disease, I really like being able to work from home. I feel like really allows me to work like to my fullest capacity because it's so like a part of I'm a big fan of accessibility, obviously also having an autoimmune disease and being like chronically ill, that I'm like, oh, like working from home is like comfortable for me. Like I have all the stuff that I need. I, can focus. I'm like, I have my big monitor, quiet room. So I love working from home. It would be incredibly hard for me to go back into an office.
Did you do the office stuff before?
Yeah, so I worked the reason I moved to Texas, so I'm originally from like Akron, Ohio. The reason I moved to Texas, Hazel is just jumping over here, was because Cisco wanted me to work in their Richardson office, and all TAC engineers, they were very insistent that TAC work in an office and not remotely, because they thought it was just better if the engineers were all together in case there were like issues and you could be more collaborative, which honestly, there was a lot of benefit in that. But, they managed to work from home for 2 years just fine also. So, I haven't been back since COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
everybody else, you guys are have you done the commute to the office thing, or did you get in at the right time?
I've been remote since 2014. So a long time. And I personally, I understand that working remote and working in the office is not a one size fits all situation. There are going to be some people that need to be in an office, and there are going to be some people that can work from home. I personally know people that prefer to work from the office. I am a work from home person. I love it. I obviously have worked from home since before the pandemic. It gives me the opportunity to step away from my desk to go make myself lunch, or to go say hi to my kids for 5 minutes during the middle of the day. And I had the very, unique opportunity when COVID started that I could continue to work and do my job, while also still being an effective parent and keep us all safe during the pandemic. I think that for a lot of people, working from home helps improve our mental health and helps us with, getting some day or time back in our day every single day. So we're not commuting, we're not wasting money on gas. We're helping the planet a little bit more by not wasting money on gas outside working, trying to commute to an office. But, again, it's not a one size fits all for everything. So it just depends on your job, depends on your life and who you are as a person.
That's true, because I am very much the introvert personality, and the extrovert personalities of the world, like John Strand, they got to see people. You want to say hi to another person. You don't want to always just, you have a dog, you have a cat, probably, maybe, not probably, but they don't talk back to you in the same way.
Yeah,
it depends.
There was another question in chat, which I think is really interesting. It was, what non-industry experiences would you recommend a newbie pen testing person to find before going into the field, or blue team, accounting, etc. And I think, yeah, someone else said report writing. I personally took a business writing class in college, and I think that it was incredibly valuable. It taught me how to use, the different tenses. I think that it helps a lot with my reporting as you go and communicating effectively in a way that is, a little bit more professional. They emphasized a lot on like PowerPoint presentations and other types of like business writing and how to, again, effectively communicate with people. Now, obviously not everyone could take a class like that, but I think that it's incredibly valuable for our industry as a whole. There's a little bit of a gap between the people that are incredibly smart and are great at coding and also can be good at report writing. Sometimes those two things do not go hand in hand. But I've also worked with a guy that had like a medical degree, and he is a fantastic coder and like a brilliant person. He was one of the guys that worked at my first job, but he had a degree in biology. So I think it's just really who you are and what you have access to. It doesn't really matter so much your degree or your experience in the past. If you want to get into cybersecurity, you can. I mentored someone a couple of months ago, and they just got their first job in cybersecurity, and I was super excited, and I was like, yes. But as far as breaking into the industry, there's so many different ways to do it now that weren't available even 5 years ago.
It's more about the mindset you have of the work that is in front of you. If you're the curious type or tinkering type personality, I think, would you agree with that? Who shouldn't go into this sort of work?
Yeah, if
Maybe
you don't
that's
like
an
the
easier
tediousness
question.
of puzzles, you may not like this job.
Yeah, if you go to the back of the book to look for the answers first.
Yeah.
I think you have to really embrace failures and take every error as a learning opportunity to move forward, because you're not going to get it right the first time. Just like learn how to ride a bike, you're going to fall down in the first couple of times. You just got to get back up and keep at it and stay motivated. You got to be passionate about it too and love what you do.
Absolutely.
I definitely second the curiosity part. Ben just did a line about how being a bartender contributed to how effective he is at being a consultant. And I really liked that live stream because I was a server for like 6 years, and so it's not quite a bartender, but like when we're talking about experiences that are not industry related necessarily, it's customer service, it's anticipating like what the customer is going to need or needs. And then when Ashley was talking about the business writing class, like even if you can't take a business writing class while you're learning stuff, you can still write about it and then maybe make some friends and ask them to give it a look over and give you some feedback. And I think that would be really valuable experience to gain while you're not like necessarily testing yet.
I think there is on YouTube. There's a report writing YouTube video on our BHIS YouTube page.
BB
right?
King did one. It's a
Yeah,
report
I've
for
heard-
Doe, and it says part 2,
Yeah.
which might be confusing because we don't have a part 1. But the part 1 was done at a conference somewhere. I forget which one. I'd have to ask BB, but we have.
I think DEF CON.
It's like the version 2, but it's called part 2. So look for that on the YouTube BHIS channel. You'll find that. It's very good. BB is one of the best report writers that I know of. He's very good at that.
There's so many
very
good
big
tips
skill.
and tricks in that video. I've learned a ton just from that one video alone on report writing.
It was recommended to me by someone who doesn't work at BHIS. Like someone's like, you should check out this video. I'm like, thank you.
Perfect.
Yeah, after
Same
show
here.
report for Doe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say that reporting is like, I'm probably being generous here, but it's probably about 75 to 80% of penetration testing for all of us.
You're being
I
generous
would-
to the testing
yeah.
side.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, you're right. Like 90% of what we do testing wise is actually reporting. But I mean, how are you supposed to show value in your tests without reporting on it and effectively reporting on it so that the client has something that's actionable and they can take it back to, whoever they have to take it back to at the end of the day? Because I would say 90% of my clients have to take a report to someone, whether that's their investors or other companies that they're working with or third-party vendors that require testing or compliance reasons. That report is our dough.
Yeah, that's why those tips and tricks are super important though too, because we were talking about time management earlier, and it's just like doing those little like tricks can save you so much time, so you have more time to actually test and find stuff and beef up your report.
Yeah. And Phil and I were talking about that earlier today too, is like that rabbit hole of what can I automate and save me time, but is it going to take me too much time to learn how to automate it? There's that other rabbit hole there too of trying to save yourself time and repeating things over and over and over again. But
another thing to piggyback off what you said, Ashley, one thing we talked about was sometimes it can be less beneficial when you do automate everything because you're overwhelmed with data and you might miss things as opposed to when you're running one command at a time, doing things manually. Although automation is great and I love automation, although it's bit me a couple times where I should have seen something that I didn't because there's just too much information getting spit out at me, but definitely pretty interesting.
Find the video, the reporting video, sorry.
Yeah, we'll share the link out.
There's a question on Discord that says, do you have any regrets concerning your career decisions, or is there something you do differently? I don't have any. I'm good.
What about everybody else?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Do you have any regrets about what you're doing? Or
life.
The direction you're going?
No, not at all. I love my job. I love what I do. I have a huge passion for it. I have people come to me all the time for questions, recommendations. I have a friend that has a small business and she came to me recently about, how to set up her company to be more secure because she was handling, HIPAA documents. And I was like, yes, let's go. And we had a really long conversation about it. And it started another great conversation inside of Black Hills on how to help small businesses that may not have that cash flow to be able to handle paying for an active SOC or an EDR solution of some kind. So I don't have any regrets. I love helping people. This is what I love to do. I think the only regret that I may have is probably not going my OSCP before I had kids. So
I think I found the video if you haven't found it yet.
I threw in a Discord, but it's not going over to LinkedIn, so we may have to cross post.
We can copy it into the general chat. Here we go.
The OSCP is very time consuming, especially if you're just starting out. But I've learned way more at the OSCP exam and training than I did my entire 4 years of business administration in college. So definitely highly recommend if you have the time to do it, but it takes time.
Yeah, trying to do OSCP when you have any other time constraints, like anything at all, is not going to work.
Like a job.
Yeah, like a job. Like OSCP, you need to take like 3 months off of your life and go do it. Yeah.
There was a question that I don't want to forget, and it was related to the Antisyphon training. Is how does it work? I'm trying to see if I can find it. Do you get access to one course or all the course? It's per course, as far as I know, and some of them are pay what you can courses. So the more basic ones, like John Strand's courses, are pay what you can. So if you're just getting started and you don't have much disposable income to get the ball rolling, you can start with those courses, and they'll go up from there depending on what the course is and what the instructors are asking for. but it's per course. I can tell you that you get access to if you're signing up for a live course where you get virtual live training, you get access to recordings for 6 months. We get cyber range that we have for everybody who signs up for 6 months. And the video on demand ones, I'm forgetting exactly how long the access is for.
That was like 90 days.
Is it?
I think.
The cyber
I'm not
range
sure.
really
It should
awesome.
say on the website. And if I weren't multitasking already, I'd go look.
Oh, the cyber range. I thought you said the on-demand videos. Sorry.
The on-demand. Yes, I was talking about the on-demand.
Oh,
I think the cyber range is...
The cyber range, from what I understood, was 6 months.
Mm-hmm. I think so.
And
6
I
months
think
to a year-ish.
I want to say the video on demand are about as long.
6 months.
6 months. All right.
All right. Do we have any
Access
more?
is a year or life, depending on what you pay, I believe. I don't know about that. It's on the website.
Maybe
I'll say
it varies
that.
by month.
What was that, Alyssa?
I was saying maybe it varies by which course.
It might.
So I just clicked on one and it said 6 months. But this one does say 12 months. So yeah, maybe it varies.
Yeah, I think like this is just like a good thing to mention, but I think one thing that I heard before testing was like hack the box or CTFs isn't like pen testing, and I really didn't understand what people meant by that, because I was like, then what the heck is pen testing, right? And so now I have a much better idea where pen testing is like, because you have that 2-week time limit, like you are throwing a much wider net through an entire environment and trying to find as much as you can. And then if you have the time, you kind of go down the rabbit holes for, more in-depth testing. Whereas like if you're doing hack the box, it's like you are going down a rabbit hole pretty much for the whole thing, because you're focusing on one box instead of an entire environment. So that had been something interesting, because I feel like I never really understood what people meant by that they were different. And I was like, well, then how do you prepare? So that was something I wanted to mention.
Yeah, and to your point too, when you're looking at a CTF or a hack the box, there's a goal, right? And that goal is to find a flag. When you have a pen test, there's not necessarily a goal. It's just to find vulnerabilities or to find a way in to access something and specifically, or to hack all the things basically. But yeah, with a CTF or a hack the box, you have to find that flag and you throw literally everything at it until you find that flag. And it is a rabbit hole. You could spend an hour on a box to like weeks, months on a box. So yeah, agreed, Serena.
Yeah, that's what I was always like so confused, because then I was worried. I was like, well, is this going to help me? And it 100% does help. I will say that CTFs are a great way to like learn how to use the tools and like find different ways to exploit stuff and kind of, get better at Googling and searching and being quick. So it's a great way. It's just a little different, which is fine, because I would say it's pretty easy to adapt eventually. Like maybe at first you might be overwhelmed with the amount of stuff you have to look at. But eventually, you get quicker at it and get better at least identifying some certain things. You're like, oh, this is something that I should really look into.
And another thing with hack the box is you're not really too worried about stealth and remaining undetected, because it's a machine that's supposed to be hacked and throwing all the tools at it. So it can be quite different when you're looking at a real application with more security protocols in place, such as WAFs and load balancers, rate limiters, all that stuff, which you don't always see.
So you feel you have a lot more freedom to just throw everything at it to see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sometimes they'll have certain rules, like they don't want you to do specific scanning or brute forcing. But other than that, yeah. But again, I mean, brute forcing really isn't super stealthy depending on how you're doing it.
But definitely a great learning tool, and it'll introduce you to a lot of different things. It'll open the door for you to continue on the path. Definitely sparks the interest on and you learn so many different services too on there that you can take away and learn from. But definitely not a one size fits all by any means. Definitely expand into the Antisyphon training and everything else. Another shameless plug, but it's a pretty great course that are available in there. Yeah.
White Cyberduck says, and no report at the end.
Unless you're trying to get a job at BHIS.
Yes.
Yes.
Which,
speaking
When
of,
I was doing
Bronwyn
one of
says,
oh, sorry.
go for it.
No, I was just
I'm
saying
like,
when I
whoever
was
was
doing my
gonna-
report that there was one problem that I could not figure out. And at this point, I was like, I don't even care if this thing goes in the report. Like, I'm just like irritated that I couldn't figure it out. So I spent so much time trying to figure it out because I was like, this will not defeat me. I eventually got it, but it was rough.
there's a question about virtual box VMware workstation versus, trial accounts in the cloud. And their end goal is to set up labs, demos for teams managing hybrid environments. I guess I'd have to know more about your end goal situation and what you're trying to do. Personally, for me, I prefer to spin up local labs in like VMware, just because I do have a box dedicated to, or a server rack, I should say, dedicated to building lab environments. But as I became more comfortable in, like Azure and stuff like that, there's a, oh gosh, and now the name of the Grubhub, the repo just escaped from my brain. But there's I think it's called like Purple Cloud or something purple something. I'll find it and I'll link it to you, Shovel Joe. But it deploys a hybrid environment in the cloud, and you can deploy stuff on premises as well. But it will give you a hybrid environment to play around in. I'll find it though. 1 second.
All right, we're coming up on an hour.
Yeah. We should talk about jobs. If you're interested in applying at BHIS, we are looking for red teamers and people who are familiar with web app testing. And you can email jobs@blackhillsinfosec.com, and that will kick off the process. So if you are interested, if you're looking or know someone who's looking, want to recommend somebody, that's the info you need.
Now's your chance. Apply now.
Apply now. Yeah.
A wonderful place to work for. Not gonna
For sure.
It is pretty exciting when you get that response from that email to jobs. Very
So you've
cool.
been there.
Oh yeah. It was really awesome. Fernando actually had recommended me to try that because I was applying for another pen testing position, but it was like a 24-hour CTF inside of Kali machine inside the browser using VNC, and it was just horrible. Copy and paste didn't work, nothing worked, and it was vanilla. You had to install everything, and it was just crazy. But the CTF challenges for jobs at Black Hills Information Security is just a breath of fresh air. It was really awesome, and learned a ton and a lot of fun.
Nice.
All right. I feel like that kind of wraps it up.
I think so. I'm looking at any final questions. We got anything unexpected about joining BHIS or moving into offensive security? Once again, White Cyberduck with the hard questions.
Yeah. Somebody asked if we do part-time positions, and I think we do occasionally.
We have contractors, yeah, 1099s.
What is that?
What?
Anyone else hear that sound?
Yeah, that's
I hear
weird.
it too.
Someone's
I was
audio
like-
kicked in.
Is that just me?
Oh, I muted my
Nothing.
microphone. Maybe that was it.
Oh.
Whoops.
Alyssa's mic is finally working.
Wow, you can hear background noise. Hear my siblings or
there she is.
something.
I think that's what it was. I'm just
Oh.
teasing you mostly.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mepholic. Someone on Twitch asked if there was part-time positions available. Okay, that's what we just answered.
Yeah.
As
Yeah,
far as
yeah, yeah.
anything unexpected, for me, I think we already touched on it earlier when we talked about how much reporting the test, like how much time we spend on reporting compared to testing. But that definitely shocked me when I started my first offensive role, and especially as I joined BHAS. And then another thing that surprised me, can I talk about like the interview thing? Or-
I
Sure.
mean, see why not?
So one thing that caught me off guard when I dialed in for my interview, I thought it was going to be, John did say there was going to be testers. I thought it was going to be like a few, like handful, maybe 5 people in there. There was like 30 people in there, which Phil, I sat in on yours, so I know that you felt that. But yeah, so that definitely surprised me. It was exciting to me because I have, as Ashley said, that she was fangirling over BHAS for a while, so was I. So I kind of got to meet all the people that I had been looking up to. But that definitely surprised me when I interviewed.
Yeah, it's overwhelming for sure when you join and there's like 30 people on camera and you're like, oh my god, this is not what I signed up for.
It's definitely the most people I've ever interviewed in front of, for sure. I was
Yeah.
like, I had no idea. So
Yeah, definitely a little surprising, but I really liked that format actually because it's super open and it's just a big conversation, so everybody gets to really get to know you and see what you're all about.
Yeah, there weren't a whole lot of awkward silences either, I will say, when you have that many people in one Zoom meeting. So
true.
Cool.
All right.
Well, I think we should start wrapping this down then. I think we got a good show today. So I want to thank all of you guys for coming in today. Hopefully this won't be the last time we get you on one of these streams and maybe even a future newscast, because we also have that we do. So I'd love to invite you all to join us on the newscast or another, let's try to say it, Antisyphon address space layout randomization. I almost got it.
Very
Thank you
close.
guys for watching. We'll be back here next week. We do this on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and they are intended to be really just short, get right to the point. You don't know what the topic is until you get here, so you want to get here and find out. It's usually something useful. It could be just a demo, could be a panel discussion. We don't know. Maybe Serena's going to get us something next week.
Again?
I just wanted to see your face.
All right.
All right, we're gonna close it out. Thank you guys. I'm gonna hit the end stream, and in the words of Jason, Ryan, kill it with fire.
Wait.
But
Where's the camera? Oh, this way.